Dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News Weekend Edition.
Good evening, I'm Justin Case. We begin tonight with our severe weather alert day coverage. Thunderstorms and potentially dangerous wind gusts will be moving through the mountains tomorrow. Let's check in with meteorologist Shane Smith in the Weather Center for the latest. Shane?
Justin, we're already seeing a little bit of rain across portions of southern and eastern Kentucky, but the big impact comes tomorrow with the potential of severe weather. Right now, Pinpoint Doppler tracking a little bit of action down along the I-75 corridor and just off to the east, extending pretty much from Barberville up towards Stanford and places to the west back towards Lexington and Richmond. This rain all working off to the east and northeast as it is ahead of the storm system, which will impact us tomorrow. Temperatures right now generally into the low 60s, a few upper 50s showing up in some of the valleys, and temperatures are actually going to stay pretty steady or close to where they're at for the next couple of hours before we begin to warm up early tomorrow morning ahead of the storms as they move in. You can see the current main line going through portions of Mississippi, about to work its way up towards the Tennessee River Valley, and eventually that will arrive here in eastern Kentucky early tomorrow morning. And see a couple of those storms already packing severe thunderstorm and tornado warnings as they get ready to cross the line into Alabama. So that's something we'll keep a close eye on through the overnight. Now the good news is that initial line is expected to weaken before it rolls into the mountains tomorrow morning. So we're expecting strong storms, maybe an isolated severe storm or two, but the better chances come in the afternoon as long as all the ingredients come together. That's something we'll talk about here in just a few minutes, Justin.
Thank you. And now to a developing story. Kentucky State Police are investigating after a 2-year-old was found in a Knox County pond. The incident happened on Wilton School Road in the Woodbine community around 6 p.m. Saturday night. The toddler was taken to Baptist Health Corbin, where it was pronounced dead. Officials have not released if it was a boy or girl. We will update this story when we receive more information on WYMT.com. Officials from Perry County Sheriff's Office and Hazard Police Department are still searching for a man and woman who they believe may have been involved in a shooting Friday night. This is video from the scene of the shooting last night. We do not know the condition of the man who was shot multiple times near the train tracks in the Christopher community. Hazard High School was placed on lockdown following the shooting, and because prom is going on tonight at the high school, we are told there will be an increased police presence at the school to make sure students stay safe. Today, cyclists aired their tires and fastened their helmets for Laurel County's annual Red Bud Ride. Riders say there is no better way to experience Kentucky scenery than on two wheels. Nearly 950 bikes invited from across the country and the world cruised down London's main streets. Volunteers prepared breakfast and lunch, gearing riders up for 4 routes, the longest being 100 miles.
You're like flying 3 feet off the ground down the country road, flying down a hill. Then you have a challenge of climbing back up a hill and, weaving around turns. It's just a thrill, really.
For updates on next year's ride, organizers say you can simply follow Red Bud Ride on Facebook. Day 3 of Hillbilly Days kicked off this morning. Multiple events throughout the day kept guests entertained. Big Sandy Roadrunners held a 5K, 10K, and a 2-mile walk. The proceeds go to Shriners Children's Hospital. Thousands of people also lined the streets for the annual parade. It lasted nearly 1 hour, and if you missed it, don't worry, we have a commentary of the parade from our Marianne Fletcher and Brandon Robinson on our Facebook page. And at Hillbilly Days around 10 this morning, the political stump speeches began. This year, the annual event hosted gubernatorial candidates. The primary election will be on May 21st. Voters will elect Kentucky's Governor Rocky Adkins. Andy Beshear, Matt Bevin, Adam Edelin, Robert Goforth, and Goforth's running mate Mike Hogan were there. Each candidate had 3 minutes to speak to the crowd. We spoke with a few of them before their speeches.
Eastern Kentucky needs a governor, to be very honest, to give the focus that is needed for our region to help rebuild our economy and provide the kind of jobs our people need and deserve.
We've got to fight to keep the jobs we've got. We've got to fight to build the jobs of the future, and I'm the only candidate who has a proven track record of doing that, particularly here in Eastern Kentucky.
Kentucky deserves a governor that is going to restore humility and dignity to that office. A governor that treats everyone in Kentucky, regardless of who you are, where you're from, how much money you're worth.
We were not able to meet up with Andy Bashir. The event lasted around 2 hours. Stump speeches are a throwback to another era of politics. And the weather was not too bad today, but yesterday a short storm damaged many vendors. A Hillbilly Days staple, Miss Piggy's Pork Chop, is one of the vendors that caught the worst of the storm. A cartoonist vendor nearby was flipped upside down and the tent torn. Thankfully, they had an extra tarp for their tent. However, Alani Jimenez recalls the moments leading up to the storm.
We were seeing on the apps and nothing was showing up there. So we thought, oh, okay, it will just pass us. It won't hit us here. Oh, it hit us here.
During the storm, one person was taken to Pikeville Medical Center, while 4 others with minor injuries refused treatment. Even our anchor, Steve Hensley, was caught in the storm live on air. Here's a clip from yesterday's 5:30 newscast.
We'll do the best we can here. I hope you can still hear me.
Thankfully, Steve was not injured in the storm. We finished the newscast from our nearby Pikeville bureau. Steve says it is definitely something he will not forget. Governor Matt Bevin was also in Inez today. He addressed people in Martin County and allowed them to ask questions about many key issues in the state. Bevin talked a lot about his views for economic growth and how to get there. And as Amber Sipe explains, he also had to answer some tough questions ranging from the water crisis to the public education system.
Sharing a message of opportunity and economic growth, Kentucky Governor Matt Bevin stopped in Inez on Saturday.
We need to just out-hustle other states for opportunities.
But Martin County residents were left wondering how a struggling county fights or prepares for that kind of growth.
If we don't have good infrastructure, then people can't be confident that this is a place that they can and want to raise their families. And good infrastructure involves the water, the sewer, the roads.
The conversation quickly transitioned to fixing issues like Martin County water.
We are dedicating every resource we can, both state dollars and channeling federal dollars into this. And we're making progress.
Progress that residents hope will lead to a solid supply of clean water. Others in the crowd came to ask tough questions about the legislative session. Teachers asked Governor Bevin about pensions and why he says they need to fix the system.
We now have more retirees than people working. The system is completely broken.
Bevin says big pension promises have been made in years past, and those are no longer realistic because the workforce is shrinking.
Knowing that it is not possible to continue to sustain it, even for those current employees and retirees, why, under any circumstance, would we make the same promise to a future employee?
Teachers spoke up about charter schools, worrying those would take money from the public school system, but Bevin says they've been misinformed.
And it gives parents and it gives students some option other than the abject failure they've been getting decade after decade after decade.
He says charter schools would still follow public school standards and teachers would be state certified. While teachers were skeptical of his response, it all circled back to providing opportunity to everyone in eastern Kentucky, something most in the audience were in favor of, but with a lot of work in front of them to get there. Amber Sipe, WSAZ, News Channel 3, Inez.
Governor Bevin says he is pushing hard to bring more economic opportunities to the state. He was asked why companies like Enerblue suspended plans for a Pikeville facility. He says the company had a problem raising the capital to come to the area. However, he says he is confident in Brady Industries and they are completely committed to keeping that promise of bringing hundreds of jobs to the area. In fact, Bevin says to stay tuned for an economic announcement in the next few days. April 13th is a day of remembrance of one Pulaski County sheriff who was assassinated. Pulaski County Sheriff Sam Catron was murdered 17 years ago today. On April 13th, 2002, Sheriff Catron finished a campaign speech at a volunteer fire department when he was assassinated by Danny Shelley. Catron was running for a 5th term as sheriff. Jeff Morris, his former deputy who campaigned against him, along with Kenneth White, were also involved in the plot. Shelley and Morris were sentenced to life in prison with the chance of parole in 2027. White was sentenced to life in prison without the chance of parole. White died in prison in November of 2018 of natural causes. A documentary called Choices was made showing a reenactment of the shooting. An emotional message from a father who wants to find his daughter. Tonight we are hearing from Savannah Spurlock's father, who gave a heartfelt message on Facebook today as the number of days she has been missing reaches 100. The young mother of 4 was last seen leaving a Lexington bar on January 4th. Police believe she left with 3 men and she likely went to Girard County. Police tell us they have had extensive searches of that area. Friends, volunteers, and strangers have joined the effort to find Spurlock, and her father says that's been one good thing that's come from the terrible event that has rocked them to their core.
Through what at times feels like overwhelming despair over the past 3 months, we also feel overcome with gratitude. There are so many people and groups that we feel eternally grateful towards.
Spurlock reminds people of the $10,000 reward being offered to the person or people that provide the tip to find Savannah Spurlock. Officials with Kentucky State Police and family members of Tony Hinkle are asking for your help finding him. The 26-year-old father of 3 has lived in Clay County for most of his life. He went missing about a month ago and was last seen at a homeless shelter in Frankfort. Police have said they do not have any information or evidence that would suggest he is dead. Contact KSP Post 11 if you have any information about where he might be. And we want to take a moment to congratulate some of our colleagues. WYMT won 11 awards at tonight's Associated Press Annual Awards Banquet in Lexington. Several current and former employees were on hand to accept the awards. Those included 2 first-place honors for Best Digital Coverage and News Promotion. You can find a complete list of winners at WYMT.com. Coming up at 11, severe weather is causing extensive damage in East Texas, including the deaths of 2 children.
And that severe weather could make its way towards eastern Kentucky tomorrow. A breakdown on the potential for severe weather right after this.